Hello from Adventure Isle. We are doing something super fun today. We are here at Disneyland and we are going to share with you a whole bunch of fun behind the scenes Fantasmic details. We're going to start off by heading over to Tom Sawyer Island because this is the main stage where Fantasmic takes place, so there's lots of fun Fantasmic details that can be spotted from on the island itself. And just keep in mind, if you want to go see these details yourself, that Tom Sawyer Island does close at a different time each day, but it generally closes at around 5 o'clock on days where Fantasmic is going to be happening because there is a lot of prep work that has to be done by performers and technical cast members to get the show up and running, and a lot of that prep work happens right here on Tom Sawyer Island.
Stick to the path, have a good time.
As soon as you are off the raft and onto Tom Sawyer Island, there is already fun Fantasmic details for you to spot. First up, right after you get off the raft, if you look here to the right, you can see stairs that lead up to the main stage for Fantasmic, and this is where all the action of Fantasmic will be happening when the show starts. You can also see here to the left of this stage a giant box that's actually hiding one of 3 rear projectors that will later project onto the water screens for Fantasmic. And if you head over to the exact opposite side of the stage for Fantasmic, you can see this rock work, and this rock work is also hiding the second of 3 projectors that will project onto the water screen during Fantasmic.
Welcome to Fantasmic. Tonight, our friend and host Mickey Mouse uses his vivid imagination to create magical imagery.
Back on Tom Sawyer Island, if you walk past where the projector location we first showed you was, you're going to see this cave that actually seems to lead to nowhere, and a lot of people wonder why there's just a cave that doesn't go anywhere, but that's because this cave is actually hiding an entrance to underneath the stage of Fantasmic, so it's only for Disney technical personnel. Another very specific thing that Tom Sawyer Island is used for is to get performers on and off of the boats that are out in front of the stage during the Fantasmic show, and this dock is where performers will load on and off of the boats. And there are multiple docks like that on Tom Sawyer Island that characters come on and off of. We actually caught some cast members using one of those docks to bring in this ladder that is also used for Fantasmic. This ladder is used to get characters on and off the boats like the Columbia. One aspect of Fantasmic that used to always make me think, like, how did they do that, was how Mickey gets so tall at the very end of the show during the finale, and I'm going to show you first what that looks like during Fantasmic, and then I'm going to show you how they do that on Tom Sawyer Island. So to catch a glimpse of how that effect works, what you need to do is take the staircase up by the treehouse on Tom Sawyer Island, and there you can see the back of the house that's on stage for Fantasmic. The platform that Mickey's standing on is actually raised up right now. You can see it just slightly above the rest of the roof line, and the whole roof actually slides back, and Mickey stands on that platform and it raises him up so that he is tall during that last part of the show. And one other thing that you can see from the back of the house, besides where that platform raises from, is you can see all these boxes back behind the house, and those are actually where the pyro launches from behind Mickey during the show. Also on Tom Sawyer Island, you can see the Fort Wilderness building. Now, this building is not a building that you are allowed to go inside of as a guest, but during Fantasmic, that's actually where all the performers change during the show, because most Fantasmic performers play multiple parts during the show.
All right, behind us right here is the sailing ship Columbia. During the day, it is a sailing ship, but when you see it at night, it transforms, and at night, it becomes the Captain Hook ship from Peter Pan. So later tonight, when you see this during Fantasmic, it's going to look very different than it looks right now. It's going to be all lit up. There's cannons firing. It's very cool when it comes out at night. All right, we're here on the sailing ship Columbia. One of the coolest parts, if you're a fan of Fantasmic, is that you get to go right by Tom Sawyer's Island, which is where a lot of the main things happen during Fantasmic. So we're going to go by and take a look at what we can see. This is where Mickey fights Maleficent. Now it's just going to be Maleficent the person and not Maleficent the dragon, but you can see a lot of cool things over on Tom Sawyer's Island. And sometimes you can see down in the water where they test like the fountains and things like that during the day. But it is a very cool ride across the rivers of America if you want to check out and spot any Fantasmic elements that we'll be seeing later tonight.
Another fun thing you can see from the sailing ship Columbia is these fake crates, and these fake crates are actually where they're hiding speakers. Those speakers will come out a little bit later in the day before Fantasmic starts. And a couple other cool things that you can see back behind those crates, there's an opening and there's a couple stairs there that take you down to a doorway that goes under the stage, and to the right of that opening is a rounded deck area, and that is actually a wooden cover that has Maleficent's lift underneath it. And now let's take a look right in front of the house at this concrete platform. This concrete platform would actually move out of the way during the old Fantasmic shows because that's where the dragon was hiding, was underneath the concrete platform. And that's actually also where Aladdin and Jasmine's magic carpet used to hide, and that might be why Aladdin and Jasmine look like this in the show now. And now if you take a look at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you'll see a box with an opening on the front of it. That's a very cool item. That is actually a flamethrower, and it is one of several that will start the fire on the rivers of America.
Also, if you're looking up on the top of Pirates of the Caribbean, if you see those open windows over there, that's actually the control booth that is controlling Fantasmic. So in those windows is where the technicians are controlling the entire show for Fantasmic. Just a second, we're going to pass some waterfalls that are on the left side of the boat. These waterfalls are actually where they put the small barges that are going to come out in Fantasmic later with characters and things on them. There's little mini boats, and those are actually stored behind the waterfall. During Fantasmic, they obviously turn off the waterfall to get the boats in and out, and that's also why they stop letting boats go on the circle of River of America later in the day, because they don't want people seeing that the waterfall's off and that that's where the boats are being hidden. So back under there, you can see it's actually pretty deep, and back hiding back there is where you can find boats that are stored for Fantasmic.
And once the sailing ship Columbia is done taking guests out for the day, it generally docks sometime in the late afternoon, usually around 4 or 5. It pulls into this spot over by Harbor Galley, and then a bunch of technical crew members from Fantasmic will come and get all of the rigging ready so that the Peter Pan scene can take place later during Fantasmic. If you can, check out the sailing ship Columbia a couple hours before Fantasmic is set to start. This was at about 6 p.m. on the day that we saw the 9 o'clock show. You can actually see cast members who are rigging and adding rope work and different things onto the sailing ship Columbia. And if you go up close, on the left-hand side there, you can see that yellow item that's leaning up against the rail. That's actually a trampoline that will be used later by performers. And towards the back of the ship, laying on the ground there, you can see the pirate flag that will be hung over the back of the ship to transform it into Captain Hook's ship.
Double the powder and shorten the fuse.
Okay, shorten the powder and double the fuse.
Watch this, Wendy.
Captain! Captain!
Get up, you idiot.
Aye, aye, sir.
I'll catch you for this pan if it's the last thing I do. Get over there. Don't give us no trouble. I've got you this time. I've waited years for this. Hook, you codfish. Here.
They also hang these black privacy screens around Tom Sawyer Island before the show starts so that performers can run around the island without being seen. And we had shown you a quick glimpse of this earlier, but this area here up above Pirates of the Caribbean where those windows are, that is the control booth for Fantasmic. And there are actually two different tech areas for the show. There's the upper show control booth that we just showed you that's up above Pirates of the Caribbean. But then down here on Rivers of America, there is a second show control area. Down by Rivers of America is where they do like pyro and safety and where the stage manager is. And then in the upper control booth above Pirates of the Caribbean, that's more overall show control, mechanical effects, and the fountains and things like that. So they do have two different things that they do, and that's why there's a lower booth and an upper booth. And this lower show control area gets set up a couple of hours before the show. And next up, we're going to see something very cool. These giant lighting and sound towers are actually in pits under the ground that you walk on all day around the Rivers of America, but most guests would never even know that they were there unless they were told by somebody like us or unless they've actually seen these towers go up themselves. This is one of several towers around the edge of Rivers of America, and they house different things like lighting, speakers, projectors, and some special effects equipment. And what happens is the pit cover opens, they use hydraulics to bring these lighting towers up from underground, and then once the tower is all the way up, then the people who are working, the technical personnel, will close the covers, and the only thing that will still be showing from underground is the pole that these towers are on. They do place nets around the outside area when they're raising the towers, and they have cast members stand around so that guests cannot get too close while the towers are going up. And the towers do take about 5 to 10 minutes each tower to go up in the air and get to their full height, but we did speed up this video so you didn't have to watch 10 minutes of it. And these towers actually do go up much higher once the show is actually up and running, but right now they just get them up high enough so they can close the cover, and then they actually bring them down a little bit so that they can test the lighting on this particular tower. And here you can see a couple fun minutes of where they're actually testing the lighting on that tower that we just showed you that was coming up from under the ground. This is another one of the giant lighting towers going up. This tower is going up over on the side by Big Thunder Mountain. The tower that we showed you before was the center tower for the show that was over by the show booth that's right in the middle of Rivers of America. You can see here, because this one's in a lot more populated area, they do have a lot more cast members standing around to make sure that guests do not get anywhere near the tower while it's being brought up. Again, this would have taken about 5 minutes to 10 minutes for it to go all the way up if we hadn't sped up this video for you, but it is very cool how the tower just comes out of the ground and then they close it back up. They do leave those nets up though so that guests can't get anywhere near the actual tower. And the towers for the shows don't just come out from underneath the ground that you walk on, they are also hiding in different areas of Rivers of America. Like you can see right here that there's a speaker tower that hides in a crate that sits just in front of where guests sit to watch the show. And speakers for Fantasmic are not only on those towers that we just showed you, but they are actually also on the front of the island. You can see there's these openings with black fabric covering something. That is covering speakers that are facing the audience. And around the same time that those towers are going up, it's now about 2 hours before the first showing of Fantasmic. There is now a lot of work that does have to happen over on Tom Sawyer Island to prep for the show also, so you can see some of that happening here. Just for starters here, you can see all these cast members that are on the stage area that are starting to remove all of the netting and things that were up when guests were on the island earlier in the day, but all that has to come down before the show can start. They also do test certain show features before the show starts. Sometimes you can see them testing the fountains, but on the day that we were there, we could see them testing the mist and the fog. And even though you can see here there is a ton of cast members that are working over on Tom Sawyer Island, there's even more that get brought over on this raft because it takes a ton of cast members and technical personnel to set up for Fantasmic. Another fun thing you can see when they're setting up for Fantasmic is you can actually see both the fountains and the water screen mechanism come up out of the water. So just to explain what you're looking at here, what looks like a giant pipe that's rounded and you can see about half of it popping up out of the water that's closest to the island is the water screens. And then in front of that, there are several what looks like little sprinklers, and those are the fountains for the show. And then here you can see more technicians that are working here on the front of Tom Sawyer Island, and what they're doing is installing pyro and fireworks that are going to happen during the show on this lower front area of Tom Sawyer Island.
Now you will deal with me and all the powers of my imagination!
And now here what you're seeing is one of the most interesting and exciting things that happens in order to set up for Fantasmic, and that is that all of this pyro gets brought out and set up in the water. This boat that's in the middle of the barges that's driving is going to drive the barges to the 3 different sections of Fantasmic where the water screens are and drop 2 barges per section. And all that pyro that we just showed you there was actually preloaded behind that waterfall that we showed you earlier in the day, and then once it's loaded onto these mini barges, it's attached to the boat and then brought out so that it can be set up for Fantasmic. Each water screen area gets 2 barges worth of pyro, and they are attached to the left and right of each water screen for Fantasmic. In order to attach the barges, a technician actually gets into the water, but they're not actually standing in the water. There's a platform that's underneath where the fountains are, and they're standing on that platform. The Rivers of America is much deeper than what it looks like it is right now, because the technician looks like he's only about 3 feet into the water, but really he's standing on a raised platform that's under the surface. And you can see over on the right there, another technician has been dropped into the water and is being given his 2 barges. He will attach those to the left and right of his water screens, and then the boat will come back and pick up both of these technicians out of the water. Once those technicians that you just saw are done attaching their barges, they will get back on the boat, and then their job is done, but there is still more work that gets done for Pyro once they're out of the area. Now that the technicians who have connected the barges have left the area, there are now more pyro technicians who are out in the water, and what they are doing is actually connecting the pyro to the Tom Sawyer Island stage. And these barges also house one of my favorite elements of Fantasmic. You can see those poles that are dropping down right now, and those poles are actually how the fireworks spinners happen right after the Mark Twain boat passes. And my last fun fact for you actually has to do with this boat that pushed the barges out, because this boat is also the emergency push boat that's used in the show if a boat isn't working, which actually happened opening night of Fantasmic with the sailing ship Columbia.
I say, Captain, do you hear something? No! No! Mr. Crocodile, do you like codfish?